You're live.
I made you a chair.
Oh,
But I mean, I didn't make the chair.
You brought
I
it.
positioned a chair for you.
Thank you.
Technically, it was already made.
You're so kind. There's only 2 people here.
2?
Oh no, there's
Me and you.
okay, there's more than that. What are we going to talk about tonight?
I don't know. I'm just gonna draw. I've been so into the projects right now that I'm working on that are NDA. Haven't really thought about
Right. What to
much
draw.
else. Yeah.
One side and the other.
Huh? Yeah. Well, this is my
Draw me something creepy.
favorite pocket sharpener because it does the best job. It strips the lead. I mean the wood off one side, and you put it in the other side, and it sharpens the lead. I'm surprised at how many people actually don't realize that, and they think that it's just a weird eraser that a sharpener that doesn't work very well.
Can't see the nail on the book.
Huh? You can.
There you go. Now you can.
When the other recorder is connected by that cord, it only does 1920,
Oh,
which is still, I guess, it's still high enough that you can see the detail on that.
it's okay.
So.
Nice swing.
Yeah, he's been sitting on my desk while I've been doing other things because I've been thinking about the shape of it. And so it's on Duralar, so I can go back and forth. Even though I've used it in something else, I've gone back and changed it a bit for to add it to another piece at some point.
Very cool.
Because I save all of the designs and stuff like this that I like, and they sometimes creep back into other things. So. Creep. So.
All right, everybody's here that's going to be here.
All right.
Not letting anyone else
Everybody
in.
that's you're closing the door.
No. You can't do that.
I don't know if it's even possible.
It is not possible. We'd have to have a private stream somewhere else.
So.
I think I should have to, if I was any good at it, I would narrate, narrate,
And now, you mean like a wildlife video?
yeah, it's like around that.
That'd be fun.
Do you like Fabriano Artistico paper?
The Fabriano paper that I've used has been the hot press, and it's a great. I feel like it's a really good paper. I don't use it for just kind of design and sketching and things because it's not an inexpensive paper. So I have some, so I sort of save it. There's a piece that the Gate of Fire is done on Fabriano. Whenever I get around to finishing that.
That's true. David Attenborough. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, you wanted to do like a nature of the wily artist.
The wily artist is.
I'm not sure wily would be a good way to describe
the
me.
reclusive artist would be a better one.
And venomous.
You're not venomous. Poisonous.
Well, I think sometimes the smell is toxic when I don't shower for a while.
I think that's much too TMI.
Well, it's also a joke. Sort of.
Favorite graphite pencils are Tombow Mono 100s.
Yep, Tombow Mono 100s and Mitsubishi Hayanis.
Yes, Mark Newman's on here.
Hey, Mark.
He said you're right-handed.
I am right-handed. So, Mark Newman.
Order of the Serpent said thanks for helping me develop my skills and style.
Oh, I hope it's helped. Is Mark on actively right now?
He is.
That's
He
cool.
said right-handed.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's somewhere sculpting right now.
He is probably sculpting.
That's the Tombow Mono, and then the Mitsubishi Hayani. These are the super soft 10Bs.
10Bs.
So
It's just black over here. Can't see anything.
over where? Over there.
There you go.
So
That's okay.
we have two videos going at once.
Doink. Yes. Oh, the feed stopped.
What now?
Joe Beth said the feed stopped. Can we get those pencils at Dick Blick? I know you can get them at Jet Pens.
Yeah, I order everything because we don't really have
Some of
anything
it.
local. I get everything through Jet Pens online, but I'm pretty sure you can get them on eBay too.
No, Amazon.
And Amazon. Yeah, Amazon. You can get them through Amazon as well.
Yes.
The Tombow Mono 100s. or like they run roughly around $2 a pencil. So they're not the most inexpensive drawing pencil you can get.
There is a Tombow Mono, but he likes the Tombow Mono 100s.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't feel the difference, and if you don't, then it doesn't,
Right.
then it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
But to me, the 100s feel a bit smoother. They feel a little less chalky than just the straight up Tombow monos.
So I stuck jetpens.com in the. That's where you can get them.
Yeah.
10B is a thing, yes.
Only in Mitsubishi Hayoni, though. As far as I know, I haven't found another 10B in anyone else. There's 9Bs. There's a 9. I think there's a 9B. What is this? I can't. I think Cretacolor makes a 9B10. I mean a 9B graphite.
Mark Newman Sculpture says I was working on our collaboration project, just about finished.
Oh wow, that'll be amazing to see. So. Yeah, we saw recently that that Court of the Dead published one of the drawings that I did for their thing. It's funny to me that the way that they said it, I don't know that it was very clear to people that I actually did the drawing after Mark did his sculpture, and it was based on his sculpture, and it made it easy because I could take the shape and the form the way that he had designed it, and then do basically a drawing kind of, which was already composed,
Right.
I just wanted to say, if you haven't seen it, check out. I don't know the name of the character though. She was like a water nymph, kind of dryad kind of character. Mark probably does though.
Oh, yes. Chris and Delphine say hello. Chris Malador.
Oh, hey,
They're in North Carolina with beer, tacos, and sake.
That's the best way to be in North Carolina. Probably.
You're their favorite thing to watch. Thing, quote unquote.
That's very kind.
What do you think of Koh-i-Noor clutch pencils? Someone else asked. Reynolds illustration.
You know what? I have the what do you call them? The Hardmouth. They're over here somewhere. The 5.5 millimeter clutch pencil. I like them a lot actually. And there's not very many pencils I don't like. It's just more about like if I want to use the Faber-Castells, I know that I can. They're easy to find, and I know that they have a good range of hard to soft. They tend to be a little harder than the Tombow monos, and the gray and the lead and Faber-Castell tends to be a little more gray, whereas the ones in Tombow mono tend to look a little more black next to each other.
Marco is not gonna. I'm not gonna say his question. He'll give you ideas.
Oh, okay.
His question is: have you ever done etchings on copper or zinc plates?
Oh wow! No, not. I think I might have done a little bit of that when I was in college. We did lithography, stone lithography, and aluminum plate lithography, which has some etching involved in it. And I actually really enjoyed the process, even though it was almost the people. I started looking at lithography after school, and a lot of people, like there's a couple of people that I found, like Michael Parks, who do these most beautiful drawings, and then they take the drawing and give it basically to a stone lithographer who will then etch the drawing.
Yes.
And the lithographer.
Another skill.
Well, yeah, the lithographer has spent his entire career just figuring out how to translate it into that. And
Now, someone asked this question. I'm going to see if I can answer it before you tell them.
okay,
What are you drawing? I think you're shading in a neck and those shoulders there. Am I right?
Mostly shoulders. Yeah, this is more of a head shape. I'm
That's
just
what I
leaving
meant.
the yeah.
Well, this is, oh, okay, he's looking down.
So yeah.
I got the shoulders. Well, it looks like it would attach to the wing over here.
Well, yeah, that's probably why I started it that way, because I got the wing sitting over here, and it looks like it could attach up there, even though.
Lots of half drawings like this just stay half drawings and get used over and over. A lot.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes I'll use it. Sometimes I won't. But very often I'll do something to like a part of a drawing to a high degree of finish, and then just leave it at that, and then bring it back at a later date into or whatever I've explored in the piece. I'll bring it back at a later date into the work.
Is your work inspired by occult knowledge at all? Do you have interest in the occult? And I see so much of it in your work. It's breathtaking.
When you say occult knowledge, there's a lot of things that I have. I have a lot of interest in any kind of esoteric study, I guess you could say. But when you say occult, I tend to prefer the version of the word occult that just means hidden, whereas a lot of people relate the occult to specific denominations of occult study. I think a lot of the stuff that I do is based on a kind of an internal feeling. I describe this a lot as that I'm doing work where I'm listening rather than dictating what I'm going to do. And the pieces I have that are the best pieces, a lot of people can describe this as kind of being in a flow or in a groove. It's But my answer to the question is it's not like a formal type of an occult knowledge. I've read a lot of stuff, um, and I have a lot of I would say uh, feelings towards that range of knowledge. Does that make any sense?
It does to me.
Uh,
Chris at Monarch Audio asked if we're coming out for Monster Palooza.
Chris, yes, of course,
Yes, we are.
yeah. And that's Velasco, right?
Yes.
And I'm still I've been thinking about the piece for his show as well, which is what coming up. No, it's not soon at all.
June.
It's in June, yeah. So,
May.
but
What pencil are you using right now? The Tombow Mono 100?
this is the Tomo Mono 100. And
6B.
back to the other thing, I appreciate anyone that sees that there's a lot of stuff that shows up in my drawings that I have to actually go and look up after it happens. So I'll say that I'm listening to whether it's a part of my own psyche or my imagination or something else. But there are many times, and Vicky's can testify that this has happened, where something will show up in one of the pieces that I've done, and we'll have to actually a phrase in the narration or whatever, and we'll look it up, and it actually is a thing that I personally don't remember ever coming across before. Certain words that I didn't know the meanings of, and then when we looked them up, it made sense in the narration.
Right.
And you've been around for that, so.
Mark Newman Sculpture says, great to watch you work. He's not sure I can work and talk at the same time. You couldn't do that for a while. You just jumped into it.
It's a little easier when you have like Vicky is sitting here with holding the camera, the phone, and
Reading the questions.
and reading the questions to me. So it's like I'm talking to her, even though I sound more formal right now than I normally sound when I'm talking to her.
Yo, lady.
Yeah,
Give me a pot pie.
give me a pot pie. Is that what you said?
Yes,
Do we
it
have
is.
pot pies?
We don't have pot pies. Hold this.
Oh, what? What
I
do you
gotta let the dog out.
Okay. Now I'm holding the phone because
I know, because
she can't pan around the studio right now because I have a lot of NDA stuff laying out.
oh my gosh, you just couldn't possibly wait.
I think the dogs actually do wait for us because I think this is their version of internet fame is, look, I'm going to go to the restroom while they're doing this. Okay, got it.
All right, let's see. What's some more questions? How many quick sketches we don't see have you done? Ones that are quirky but don't fit into your longer vision concepts.
A lot. I do a lot of,
like-
and they tend to be more like thumbnail stuff. I'll tend to do my quick sketches will tend to be like I'll do something like this, and I'm not really concerned with proportion or whatever. Maybe it's more of a gesture, that I'm looking at. And but here's the thing about it: when you're doing something quick and fast, you sometimes will come up with a shape language that is a little different than what you would normally use. So this is an example. But where it differs is that I don't tend to do a ton of exploration if I see something immediately, I'll just go into it. Not when I'm doing, like say concept work for someone else, because you don't want to jump into something too quickly that is not functional based on what they want, because very often what you see and you like is different than what they see and what they want. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but
Okay.
so this is kind of how when I do quick sketch, and I like the energy of it. But the thing happens is that the reason I usually like to dive into this, and rather than usually retranslate it into another drawing, is that very often if I try to redraw it, it'll end up looking like it'll end up
Being different.
becoming very static. You know, and all of these sketch lines, believe it or not, when you're doing something like this and you like it, and then you redraw it clean, all of these movement lines where you're sketching get lost, and when your eye sees the initial sketch, it's actually judging it based on all of these sketch lines. So all of this energy that you see jumping around on the piece kind of can get lost unless you know how to retranslate it into a new drawing.
Yeah,
Which,
keep that
yeah,
energy.
right. Which sometimes, if it's a formal thing, like a formal illustration, you know, you do clean it up. Other times, though, you know, you don't want to lose any of that, so you have to figure out how to translate all of those rough, brushy lines or sketchy lines into something that isn't a part of the piece, which is in part how I do come up with a lot of the Baroque detail, because I'll see these lines and I want them to stay there, so I'll start figuring out ways to incorporate them and look at them as if they're actually a detail as they came out, and what kind of a detail are they, you know?
Yes.
So. Believe it or not, I do this because I do some concept stuff where I do I do sculpts in ZBrush as well, and I do kind of the same thing with that. If the model deforms, I'll sometimes just play with the deformation of the model,
right?
Because it'll give you a really interesting shape, and that's a program that's really fun to do that with.
Sorry, I'm moving it.
And I think Mark's been playing a lot with
Mark Newman.
Yeah, with ZBrush lately. So. Which is great when you see somebody traditional jump into the other medium. I think they can inform each other, you know. And so.
All right, I missed some questions back here.
I do notice that when I've had to work on do some digital work like in Photoshop, when I come back to drawing, I'm actually a lot more precise because I don't because of the nature of the weirdness of the stylus being slightly removed from because I use a Cintiq. And the stylus doesn't feel exactly, you know, doesn't feel like a pencil, and there's a different level of precision in a way that you need for it.
Right.
When I come back to drawing, my lines are they're more refined in a way.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
Someone asked opinion on Loomis as a beginner. Other recommendations?
There's a lot of people that will you know, to study a lot of I think the Loomis books like that. Those are the dynamic draperies and dynamic figures.
He says Andrew Loomis is fun or death by needles. That's the question, I guess.
I like them to a point, but I don't like them studying. I don't like to study accurate biology through a Loomis book because they're already reinterpreted through his drawings. I'd rather if I were going to like say, you know, teach someone how to draw, I would start with something a little more representational, a little more accurate, and then after they've learned the realistic aspect of the human body or the reality of the human body, then you go into that stylization. Because if you start with stylization, you know, it just gets more stylized from that point on. It depends on what you want. I think if you're doing comic book work, that probably would be great. I think that, you know, it's invaluable either way. It just depends on the nature of how you want to start. The more stylized you begin to study a figure, the more stylized it eventually magnifies. Or, you know, I mean, if you put in the time, you can start with Loomis and learn general anatomy and then study reality, you know, realistic anatomy later. Or if you're not into realistic anatomy, then it doesn't really matter.
How about woodless pencils?
I have some actually over here, and I use them all the time. I like the fact that you can sharpen them and then draw with like an area that's like this big that you can turn up on its edge. I just don't. I don't pick them up all the time. But I have like a Crayon Dash and a Cretacolor, I think, are the woodless pencils that I have. It's basically it's just lead. I mean, and they give you a broader range to draw with, just like the drawing sticks, the graphite sticks do too. You know, and you can carve them into different shapes or whatever. So, so you can see from that quick sketch that have sort of a weird, kind of a mutated, almost satyrish kind of body here, because this would be like a jackleg.
You like that body.
So, and he would.
Oh my gosh, I'm falling asleep.
Well,
not really falling asleep. I mean,
is that your way of saying I'm boring?
No, you're not boring. No. Oh
it's actually the reason is because it's so warm in this room right now.
That's what it is. Oh my god, I already took off my I have
I didn't have the
my
air
long
conditioning.
long sleeve shirt, and now I'm down to my tank top again because I was like, oh God, I'm dying of heat. That's what it is.
I used to have
Keeps it hot in here in the studio.
dynamic, I think dynamic figures. But like I said, I tended to want to work from like uh, either photographs or I didn't really do a lot of work from real life. I take a lot of my own photographs, but I used to like to draw from photography.
Which one are you gonna work on up there?
Because
One at the top,
I
one
don't
at the
know.
bottom. You just keep going
I
back and
just
forth.
I get distracted now because I'm going back and forth.
It's long sleeve. Yeah, I know. I can't talk tonight. I had too much yummy cider this afternoon. I didn't tell you that. I went to the parade,
You went to the Mardi Gras thing.
the Mardi Gras parade.
I was asleep.
Stacy made cider.
I was asleep.
You were asleep.
So
All right, you guys. You can find artwork and originals and things like that at AllenWilliamsStudio.com. We're not leaving or anything. I'm just letting you know. This will stay up on the stories for 24 hours, and then it will go on our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/AllenWilliams. And then it will go up on our YouTube channel, which is at Allen Williams Studio again. It has no head.
yeah, no, not yet. So, so
The paper is
this is stone, just as regular Strathmore.
Strathmore 400 series.
Yeah.
Drawing paper. Medium weight drawing paper.
See, I tend to like to I have hands that are more unusual. I don't.
We have a Twitch channel. Someone said, I'm surprised you don't Twitch stream your drawing too. Well, he's been working on a bunch of NDA stuff, so we can do this hour, but he can't Twitch. And yes, we do have a Twitch channel. It's the same handle as here, I_justdraw. And you could, eventually we will step into that.
We just haven't built that practice yet.
No. Right now I'm like, get up, do this.
Well, I've been
Get up, do that.
I know I've been going to bed at like 10 a.m. and waking
I
up at
know.
5.
I need to take you to this office. You have to get up early or stay up late, dude. So we will Twitch. Twitch is at I_. Oh, I'm sorry. We
What?
will stream on Twitch. Is that what I should say?
No, I just was doing the, I feel entitled to be able to do like the version of goofy dad jokes because I'm a dad. What was that?
I don't know. Something on your computer blinged.
So when you said, we'll Twitch, I was like,
Oh, that was,
Get it?
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
That
it was,
a really bad joke.
like I said, dad joke.
Maybe it was Bender Art. She just followed us on Twitch.
Oh,
That's probably what it was. Is you did not.
oh, that sound you mean?
Yes.
Well, we're not on Twitch right now. It's just recording on the OBS.
I just thought maybe it was a notification. Is this a self-portrait? All of his pieces are self-portraits.
Pretty much everything is a self-portrait. Yeah, and that's weird to say, right? But there's better known artists than I have said that in the past. That pretty much everything an artist does is a self-portrait, no matter what it is. Because it reflects an interest inside them, I guess you could say, or something from from their inner landscape. My inner landscape is obviously full of horrifying things for most people.
You're such a
But
normal person.
in general, yeah. But the
I
thing
guess
is
that
that
doesn't.
you
I
know,
guess I probably
somebody else had pointed this out that even though a lot of the creatures that I make are could be terrifying to behold if you saw them, they generally have a demeanor of
kindness.
introspection and guardianhood. Basically, they're more guardian figures, and just because they're this is something that we've had discussions with my kids about. Just because something doesn't you know relate to your idea of beauty doesn't make it wretched in any way. That's the action of a person or creature will make it wretched, not how it looks, because
Right.
the whole idea that something looks a certain way and therefore you can judge it a certain way is kind of a falsehood. Because all of the most if for lack of a better term, the most successful human predators in the world, they survive by being really normal looking. Not, it would be really convenient if all the bad guys in the world had horns, because then you could just identify them.
What? Not your horn.
Huh?
Not your horn. You go back
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. Or if they had like blue tails or like baboon butts or something, I don't know. Well, I mean, it's like if they had
Pants would take care of that,
but
though.
see, that's the thing, though. It's not that way. Even
Show
though
me your
if you watch movies, it'll make you feel that it is that way.
Obviously, you can tell this
You know.
person was evil.
Right. But
Delphine asks, you've probably been asked this question a billion times. Did you listen to music while working? And what's your favorite musician and albums? He's all over the place.
I listen to all kinds of stuff. I listen to a lot of stuff that sort of sounds like an industrial, like techno kind of stuff. I like. I really loved lately. I've been listening to the Annihilation soundtrack because it has that weird combination of like haunting kind of melodies and then that really alien sound, which is what I really love. I listen to Lorne, Lorn, quite a bit because he kind of does that in his work. He has a very way of binding abstract sound together in a way that's really beautiful.
With your distortions of anatomy that you draw, what types of animal anatomy do you find yourself adding to your figures?
I find that
The upstairs neighbor.
well,
No.
I actually have a few little mummies around, little
Yeah,
like
that's-
mummified rats and things that I've acquired.
Oh my God, I was right then.
Yeah,
This is the upstairs neighbors.
yeah. Well, yeah. I like that like a kind of exposed like because rats fit. I mean, on a level, have a very humanoid skeletal structure. It's just distended. I like looking at the. Lately, I've been looking at also at the what do you call them, the taxidermy forms. The plastic forms that they make have real simplified, stylized anatomy, and it tends to have like it tends to be more narrow and internal looking because it's made to go inside an exterior, and so it has a little distortion to it that's kind of, to me, it's cool looking. Like if you ever look at the taxidermy forms of like say a fox, it sort of looks like a greyhound because it's just that inner structure, and I for whatever reason, even this sort of conforms in a way to a sort of a greyhound shape with the bigger chest, the super narrow abdomen, and then the attenuated hips and all that. But I look at a lot of that. I look at a lot of actually, I look at a lot of actual mummy photography too, because that tends to be thin skin over the mortal structure, which I find to be kind of visually beautiful. I mean, animals in general, it's weird because a lot of the stuff that I look at tends to look like an animal in decay or an animal, a diminished animal in some form, but obviously what I draw is not it's not about that, but sometimes I will look at like particular pieces of reference, and you kind of have to get used to this if you do concept work. I'll look at particular pieces of reference, and I'll start to you know care too much for the animal that is portrayed in it, and I can't look at it anymore because it bothers me. But by the same token, I look at its structure, and there's a part of it, of the structure of the internal side of a human body that it's just beautiful to me.
Everyone's giving recommendations, and part of these you already have that I know.
What?
The throat singing. He already listens.
Oh,
to
I
throat
love that. I love Tuvan throat singing.
Yes.
It reminds me quite a bit of, like the didgeridoo sound, quite, but
Yes. He said a room full of teeth. The group room full of teeth.
oh, I'll have to check that one out. I haven't
Yeah.
heard that.
And then check out the Ludovico technique if you like goth industrial. Yes, Dead Can Dance. You listen to Dead
I
Can
have
Dance.
listened to Dead Can Dance. Ludovico Einaudi, the pianist, I've listened to quite a bit too.
Oh, yeah, we love him.
He has a couple of things. I think Primavera is one of the pieces of music that he has that to me would be a perfect accompaniment to a scene of showing the beginning of the universe. You know, I actually started listening to that when I was working on the film Noah, so that's probably why I associate it with that, because the whole first part of that scene of Noah where they're showing the angels kind of crashing to the earth. I had this.
If you're doing this by memory or reference.
This is just by memory, and just obviously I've distorted the figures. They don't line up precisely with human figures, but then again, most humans don't line up precisely with the average human figure. So you can get away with a lot if you stylize in the same way across a form. Notice they're both in very similar postures, though. So.
So thank you for doing the feeds over the past year. I've gleaned a massive amount of knowledge from them. Grateful from North Carolina. Hey, there's more people from North. You want to hold this while I let the creature in? Sorry.
The dog actually knocks on the door when it's ready to come in. It'll sit there, and if you don't go and let him in right away, he'll actually start knocking quite loud.
He's a large dog.
Yeah, and very insistently.
Sorry.
So a lot of times when I'm doing,
See, you could do this by yourself. You
when
can
I-
hold
well,
it up like that.
I
and
can't read
drop
any
it.
of the questions though.
I know, I'm joking with you.
So when I'm doing like horn patterns and shapes, I tend to look at like areas of pattern and look at areas of detail. Like I know I want like something here. I like to. It's very loose at first because then I can go through and quickly pick out like a pattern that forms. And if you let your hand kind of do a pattern, it'll do a relatively fractal, like progression, and then. So I have all this, which looks like noise, and then I'll start picking out like a couple of spots that seem to be placed relatively well.
That's why I get sleepy at your studio. You keep it so hot in here.
Yeah, normally it's not this warm.
It's like you're in a sweat lodge.
Yeah, and the fan's turned off too.
And the fan's off.
So
You know
I don't know.
That's cool. I walked in here one morning and I had the air conditioning on.
Uh-huh.
And you had the heat on.
And I had the heat on. Yeah. So.
Boxers have an exaggerated barrel-shaped torso and super narrow hips.
Oh,
yeah, they do.
I have a couple of photographs of some really muscular boxers that are very in shape dogs, and the striations of the muscles under the skin are just great. I haven't used the boxer proportion as much, but I like it. I do like it. That's cool.
Any tips on drawing fur?
Let me draw fur maybe next time, and I'll see what I can come up with, because I like drawing fur. I've done it in the past with other like satyrs and characters that I've done. I'd have to think about it for an actual because lately I've
do it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
I mostly so the answer when I need to draw something is I fiddle with it until I make it look like what it's supposed to look like. If I do that enough, I can come up with a process. So I'd have to sit down and think about it.
He doesn't. He just.
I haven't.
Keeps working at it until it looks like the way. And I'm not sure that you think about how you do it.
Not generally. I'll just play with it, and then wherever it starts to accidentally look like fur, I'll start doing that. I know that sounds weird, but everything is really to me is like an exploration. It brings up a point that I meant to say in one of our previous feeds, is that for me, like when I paint, it helps me to consider a painting all the way till the time it's finished. It's just an underpainting. I just think of it as an underpainting all the way to the end. That way, if something needs to be changed, or if something doesn't look right, I've already established in my mind that this is just a foundation, and I can go back and play with it.
Oh, yeah.
And the same thing with the drawing. It's all I it's all a sketch until it's finished, and then it's a drawing. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a subtle change in my mind that keeps it open to change in the middle of the piece if it
Yeah.
needs to, which sometimes pieces do need to change in the middle. You know.
Someone asked, how long does it take to draw like you? You are 53.
Well, yeah, I've been drawing pretty much my entire life. Obviously, you know,
Okay, 43 years. We'll give you till you're 10.
well, you know,
You drew before then,
I
but
drew just like everybody else did up to a certain point. And the way that I'm drawing now sort of happened within the last 10 years or so. I was a much more formal, like, process up until like you know, around was it around, well, around the 2003 or 4 after Duncan was born. So, this is how long it took me to learn how to draw. Other people might figure it out quicker than me, you know.
yeah, we like to say. Sometimes
know,
it takes Alan a little longer than
I
other people.
didn't have like, I think if you were to, like, say, go to an atelier or something where it's a formal school where they teach an art core rather than, like, say, a liberal arts school, which is good too. It just depends on where you go and what teacher you have. But if you went to a formal place, you would learn academic drawing in a very precise way and a very limited timeline.
Right.
You know, because you see that, you know, right? And then, but what I do is very much not academic in the process. Although I do appreciate and enjoy seeing the academic process with, you know, the blocking out of the formal shapes and, you know, learning how to do value by drawing casts and things like that. That seems like it, you know, would have been great fun to learn that way. What I think is interesting is that there's all of this beautiful drawing that comes out of like ateliers and that, but then you don't usually see people do that much of that beautiful drawing again after. Most of the time it's they're drawing with the purpose of getting to a painting. Like, drawing is just a tool to get a means to an end, whereas you know, for me, I pretty much started looking at drawing as an end of itself.
Right.
And if I do a painting, it's because it's been inspired usually by the
Right.
drawing. I don't usually start out with a drawing with the intention of designing a painting.
Yes.
It has happened. What?
How many hours is an average workday for you?
Lately, you know, what would you say?
Probably a good 8 hours. It's broken up
Yeah.
though. It's not in straight 8 hours.
Right. Because you know, I work at home, whether I'm working on something for myself. I tend to work longer hours when I'm doing something that's a contract or concept work for
Right.
other people.
Well, because you will work on the contract,
Well,
and then you
because
will also work on your own stuff.
I'm trying to find their idea too,
Right.
and that's to me that's always more difficult than finding my own my own ideas are easy. I have a drawer full. But when you're looking at trying to do something that you're trying to match up with something somebody else has in their head, then to me that takes a little bit more time. So I spend more time doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Are you just sketching, or are you trying to do a finished piece?
right now,
Yes, that's someone is asking that. Chloe is.
you can call it a sketch if you wish, but this is exactly how I start and proceed towards my finished pieces in my own work. Whether or not this turns into a finished piece or not, I take the same stance as I do with my own work. It just depends on when I get to a point, if I feel it. If not, then I'll stop at a certain point and it'll go in a drawer for a while. And it may come back out at a different point when I see it differently. Or it just, you know, it may sit there.
Right.
But my drawings, pretty much the ones that I finish, start the same way.
It's true.
And, you know, and there are times when I'll sit down and formally study a shape or a figure until I kind of understand what I'm doing with it. And times when I've like taken photo reference and gone very close to the figure that or as precise as I could with the figure that I photographed. I like, it just depends on my mood. You know, here's the thing for me. I'm never going to close the door on any particular manner of working because, you know, my mood may change and I may want to work like that one day. So all I can tell you is that in general, you know, if you say, how do I do that? How do you draw this? I say, well, this is how I did it on this day, but I might choose to do it a different way the next time I do it.
Right.
Which to me is kind of a freedom thing, a way of keeping everything fresh. I don't really pay that much. I haven't in the past paid that so much attention to my process that I would say I do this all the time because I change it so often. You know,
Right.
I mean, kind of that's one of the freedoms you get with, you know, first off for doing work for yourself, and secondly, being an artist is you can change your process as long as you still, what I do trust is that I can use whatever process I do pick up, I can take it to a level that is comparable to whatever I've been doing. Like if I do watercolor, I know I can push watercolor and acrylic, because I've done enough of it to see. I'll do little pieces to see if I
Right.
can what I can do with it, and yes, there's always something new to learn, and there's a new limitation and a new freedom with every medium you pick up.
Right.
You
Is
know,
there a routine or ritual you have to maintain your daily work ethic?
uh, I do actually kind of get up. I get up and like I have 2 cups of coffee every time when I wake up,
Several cups of
and
coffee.
usually by the time I'm done with the second cup of coffee, I walked in and turned on my turning on the lights of my studio is sort of the ritual of waking it up. I have two that I can tell you about. When I turn the lights of my studio on, it feels like the studio has a personality to me. And when I'm looking at my studio with the lights on from another room, I can look at it and say, I know this is all poetic and everything, but I look at it and oh, my studio wants me to be in there right now. Look at how beautiful the light looks. And then I have something that I started referring to as the ritual of looking, and which is when I'm ready to work on something for myself, I'll pretty much break out every sketch that I have and spread them out on the floor
It's true.
and look at them for like a day and just sort through them and familiarize myself with ideas that I've had in the past, and then at some point the ritual of looking translates into doing, you know. But I definitely have my own rituals that I go through.
Do you find yourself being abnormally self-critical with your art? If so, what pushes you through that particular piece? Sometimes I smack him in the back of the head.
That's true. I mean, well, it's most
That was supposed to be funny.
there are. I'm always, I always do this. I do the same thing a lot of people do, or if not most, if not all artists will do a piece of work and then come back to it and not like it, and that's
Well, first you'll
essentially.
like it.
Well, I'll like it enough to say, to do it, and then there are passages that I'll go, this really worked out well here. What I don't like about it always pops up into my head, and how I get through it is I just realize that perfection doesn't exist in any form in any way, and so the whole idea. In fact, that was one of the things that inspired the imperfection series that I've been playing with this whole time. Is that the whole idea of attaining perfection is sort of a myth, but the idea of trying to get better and working towards some abstract idea of perfection, that's not so bad because you're always trying to make yourself better,
Right. Right.
But the idea that if you can't, something can't be done if it's not a perfect solution, that's a problem because you'll wait forever for a perfect solution to any problem you have, so yeah, I definitely have these moments where I'll look at something and go, oh, I don't like that and I'm very vocal about it with Vicky. Like she'll pick out, like we're working on a book for us now. We're gonna produce a book, and she'll show me something. She goes, "Oh, I found these drawings that we're gonna put in the book," and I was like, "Not that one."
And then I go,
I
yes,
was like,
that one.
"No, no," and
Then we have a negotiation.
Yeah.
Okay, not these 5. Okay, we're putting 4 of them in.
yeah,
Okay, maybe these.
and we do. We'll negotiate over it because I mean, she brings a fresh eye to some things that I look at and go, I can tell you what's wrong with this, for me. But I push through it in part by knowing that it is a natural part of the process, if that helps.
Everyone
That
does.
everybody feels it, that you're kind of supposed to feel it because if you ever start to feel like your work is flawless as it comes out, I think you're done growing because you're only doing things you know how to do.
Flawless victory.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing is if you don't occasionally try something and not have it work out, then you're only ever doing the things you already know how to do all the time.
I always like to experiment a bit.
Yeah. So much so that I have in the past, and this has been a topic of humor at points, but I have in the past had trouble just doing a series of work because I'll look at the first one and it'll be well received, and the implication is I should do a series, and then if I try to do a series, it doesn't work unless I have the same motivation to do this, the next piece in the series that I did the first one, and it can never be that the first one was successful or that it made money, because that doesn't really do it for me.
No, it doesn't.
Uh,
Fu Moon's Way that says, I know I sound like a stupid fan, but you are really beyond in graphite.
oh, that's very
Everyone's
kind.
saying thank you for, people are saying thank you.
That's very kind.
And someone asked if we would be at WonderCon this year. No.
We will be at
Monsterpalooza
Monsterpalooza
in April.
and Lightbox.
Lightbox Expo, which we still have to send them that thing so they can put us up there.
Yeah. And Dragon Con.
Dragon Con,
Yeah.
the week before Lightbox. Those are the only 3 shows we're doing right now.
So.
How many times on average basis do you sketch a piece before deciding to finally make it into a full-size piece?
I usually, it's funny. I usually start working on a piece and then I'll get involved in it. And if I if I get so involved in it that I take it all the way to a final, I pretty much feel like most of the final pieces I do as drawings could translate to a painting at some point.
Mm-hmm.
How often I do it is based on my willingness to address the fear to jump out and do oil painting, right? So because this is my comfort zone, and when I pick up oil paints, I mean, there are things I have to also, I figure out on the fly, and every time I pick up oils for a painting, I feel like I'm relearning how to paint, whether or not I've just painted a painting or not. It seems like every single one is just a new process. I get to a point where I have to do it, and it's a motivation that is coming from some subconscious place, because I don't say, well, it's time to paint like that. I don't do that. I'll look at something and go, oh, I have to paint this. That's what I do.
Yes.
And how often does it happen? Like
Sometimes
10% of the year now,
poke
probably,
them,
maybe.
and sometimes I have to
Like
prod
10% of the time out of what I've been doing lately. I feel like part of it, though, is a knowledge that once I start fully investing myself in oil painting, that I'll probably get as addicted to that, because I do love to paint what I've painted so far. I'll probably get as addicted to that as I have to drawing, and I'll do that, as much or more as this.
All right, first of all, this will be up under our stories for 24 hours if you didn't get the beginning part. Then it will go up to our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/AllenWilliams. And you can just follow us there, and they go to a specific tier first, and then they get open to the public. And then it will also be on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AllenWilliams Studio. That is also our website, AllenWilliamsStudio.com.
Kind of work on either one.
Mm-hmm. How did you get a foothold in convention success?
Oh, you know what?
We got a table at Gen Con in 1988.
Well, two things. We went there, and you sit there and you talk
This
to
is before
people.
internet, so
Yeah. And we did mail outs to shows, which I don't know if people do so much of that as much anymore, but we'd have a show that we would mail to almost every weekend.
little tiny conventions all over the country have mail-in art shows that you can send your art off to, and
We used to
then
buy
they would go to auction.
we used to buy the Crazy Ivan convention guide. Remember
Yes,
that?
and have to do it all by snail
Yeah.
mail. I'd have to send off letters.
Yep. We'd have to send off a letter. Can we be in your show? They'd send us a letter back. Usually it was, just send in the work with this, paperwork. And then if the pieces got enough interest and bids, then it would go to a voice auction in the show, and then sometimes it would go for way more than what we would normally sell it for, and sometimes way less. But
And here's the thing, though, is when you're starting out conventions, I mean, we kind of started with Gen Con. We mailed to a bunch of those, and then and that was in '88 when it was in Wisconsin, and then we met at Dragon Con.
we did.
And we continued to do Dragon Con.
Yeah.
And that's when it was in October for a while. And it was a tiny show. And we would do a couple of big ones across the country. And some of them were flops.
Mm-hmm.
Texas never did really good.
They did for good for some people. Here's
No,
the weird
for
thing.
some people, it
here's
could
the
be great,
here's
yes.
the interesting thing about doing conventions. Even now, you can go to a convention and have your very best day, your very best weekend, and be next to another artist who is of comparable quality who will have the worst weekend they ever had.
Yes.
And it all depends on whether or not the right 10 people walk in the door.
Yeah, it just,
You
yeah,
know?
you have to kind of,
Because it may be 10 people that are fans of the kind of work that you do, and those 10 people weren't the fans of the other person. So you just kind of have to go to a show and build up and find your fans there and build it up.
right. I
And
mean,
just,
it's a little bit easier now, although it can be harder because you can actually get out to people without leaving your
Right.
living room.
right.
But the internet is huge. But, you know, before the internet, we actually had to just physically go to shows and sell it to people and meet art directors, and that's how you did that.
I used to have to send out slides.
Oh my God. We're old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the way it was. But, I like it. I like it so much better now.
Yes. Upload all of the submissions.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I heard an owl from the other room. It sounded desperate, so.
Well, Maeve and I biked all the way in town,
I know.
did the parade, then went over to her friends. She jumped around and watched a bunch of kids, took care of a bunch of kids,
So.
jumped around. She's probably tired. We got about 5 minutes left, you guys.
So, in general, the way that I've done these two things is the way that I will approach probably 70% of the work that I do. And the other way that I will do it is a more formal, like, sketch out a head shape, and then map everything out or plot it, and then design on top of that. And what I'll do this thing where I'll do a sketch, a line sketch like this. I'll scan it in and then print it out on a piece of paper like this very lightly, and then draw the lines over again to refine the quality.
Mm-hmm.
That's especially for concept work where they're looking for clean line art. You know what I mean? Where they're looking for something that, there's lots of different ways you can go in concept. There's a lot of people that can do like flavor pieces or pieces that imply detail and stuff like that. I tend to do stuff like this for concept work where it's delineated line shapes that like could be constructed.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if I'm working with something that's like where they're going to be building like prosthetics for an alien or something like that.
Yes.
Or other people who will sculpt it digitally, like in ZBrush or whatever they sculpt for actual animation.
Right.
I can sculpt in ZBrush. I just don't make pretty models in terms of production. They're not like the polygons aren't lined up right and
It's
but that's not what I'm doing it for. So.
Sour Muse says, "Thank you both. You are what art should be: beautiful, shared, and taught."
Oh, well, you're very kind. Thank you.
She very kind. Oh, it's an alien head. I couldn't tell you what. I don't have my glasses.
What's
on.
an alien head?
The Sour Muse is.
Oh,
What is it called?
her little avatar.
Thank you. First of all, I forgot my glasses, so I'm like, because I'm blind as I'm a little bit blind right now. Oh, do you know when your book is coming out? We're pulling it together.
She
So it
has
should be
she has two
some
different
people
what
working
you
on
have two people that are like designers and editors that are helping with us, and it's the folders are all set up, and this is a book that we're going to produce no matter what. It might get kickstarted just for like pre-sales, but it's going to be produced whether a Kickstarter is successful or not.
hardback with the narrative and with your writing and your drawings.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have
This year, it's coming out this year because it has to. Because I've been talking about it for like 4 years, 5 years. And see, the longer we go, Alan will go, well, you can't put that piece in. And then I have to argue with him again and say, yes.
I'll just do all new work.
No. The book will never come out if you do all new work. Oh my gosh.
Very much, in terms of that anatomy question earlier, I do altered human anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a wide range of what humans have expressed in anatomy over the course of our evolution.
Yeah.
And very often people who have had
Yes, independently printed book.
what would be commonly called a deformation in anatomy has engineered some beautiful visual design. Not to be unsympathetic, to the pain this particular thing might have caused them. The there is still a beauty in human form, even when if it doesn't line up correctly, or not correctly, when it doesn't line up with what you normally think of as human form.
Right.
I don't believe the word correctly is the right word to use there. But
Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to share with us.
you're very welcome. Well, thanks for watching.
Yes.
You know,
Bunch of thank yous and such.
I tell people when they say, you know, how fun it must be, I'm like, well, you know, I stare at the head of a pencil for, you know, 8 to 14 hours a day. So, I mean, if that sounds like fun to you, it's great.
Well,
You know,
probably these guys
but
do think of that.
well, the thing is that I'm making something, so I'm staring at that. But you're basically staring at an image. But the thing is in my visual field, in my mind, all of these different images are playing out, and all of these stories around the images are playing out constantly.
So your mind is not.
Yeah. So, but to the external world, it's like, you know, it's like looking at a pen.
Yes.
The head of a pen for, you know, 8 hours a day. It's not that
Thanks
boring
for-
to watch. I
Thanks
mean,
for inspiring me to do my art homework tonight.
oh, you're very welcome. And art homework is the best kind of homework to have.
Delphine was
I
asking
mean,
if
unless
I
you're,
do.
you know, a mathematician, then it's math.
Delphine was asking if I do any art.
She's a designer. She can do art. I've seen her draw, and she has a degree in interior design from the University of Alabama. So she can make a beautiful house and a beautiful.
That's not what our house is.
But that we don't do it ourselves. Actually, most of the designers that we've ever met don't design their own houses.
No, the cobbler's son, right? Without any shoes.
Who has no shoes? Yeah.
The cobbler's son who has no shoes. Yes. No, I sew and I knit and
She does some incredible pottery too, by the way.
pottery.
It's my favorite dishes in the house are the ones that Vicky made.
Oh, that's sweet.
So
Is $27 the usual price for a Tombow Mono 100 pencil? It's probably not.
no,
No.
that would 24. I spend $24 on like a 12 pack through
So
JetPens.
maybe it's the whole pack.
So a 12 pack, yeah, that would be around the right
Shadowgraphs
price.
told you to go to jetpens.com. Yeah, $225.
Now the 6Bs that I use are often sold out, and I hope it's because I've been telling people so much about it and it's getting more play. But they also have 4Bs, which are still pretty good.
Yes. But Alan will go, oh, the 6Bs are in. I'm getting 2 packs.
Because I'll
like,
use, invariably, but see, I bought 2 boxes of it like last week because they said, oh, we're going to talk about Tom Monos again, so I'm going to go. And when I bought the 2 boxes from JetPens, they said there was 2 left.
see if there's any more left.
So, and occasionally when I'm drawing and we're on this thing, like I just stabbed my paper with the pencil, but that's okay because
No, $27 for a single pencil. Maybe it's probably a case of pencils though. It's just they come 12 to a box, right?
yeah, they should come 12 to a box.
So if it's 27 for the 12 to a box, that's
if it's 27 for one pencil, someone somewhere has been misinformed.
Yes.
Because that's not the
They
right
put
place.
the decimal point in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You ever go past 6B? Oh no,
Oh.
10Bs.
Yeah. That's the one I have here. That's
The beginning, the
the
10B.
10Bs.
Mitsubishi,
10Bs are
right?
really fun for getting the grain of the paper to be really high contrast. Not so much fun for erasing. And the 6B is my general medium pencil that I go to. I can do the entire piece from beginning to end with a 6B. You know, because it's hard enough that I can draw lightly with it, and it's soft enough that I can get, you know, pretty grainy darks with it, you know.
Yes.
But I never scrub the paper hard, so much so that it makes that burnished look on the paper. From the side, it'll get reflective, but not like
Flat.
when you bear down with it. When you bear down with it, that's when you start destroying your ability to go back and change things pretty much. Or you also destroy the ability to make kind of that velvet texture when you do that. The velvet texture of the paper, that little pointillism look, pops up from building up the blacks gradually.
See, how long have you been going for? Like the last 30 minutes, you've been doing just that head area.
Yeah, and right now this is just starting to look kind of velvety.
Just starting.
And I can go back with this softer lead and just lightly do it again for like another half an hour, and it would start to point out almost like that coquille board that they used to make for newspapers. When you would draw on it, it would make little tiny dots everywhere.
Yeah.
That was what they used to use when they couldn't reproduce straight up graphite. They would use coquille,
that's right.
which adds like a grain to it that's super high.
The little dots.
Yeah. So.
Delphine says, thank you so much for doing the live streams. As an artist couple ourselves, it's seriously a major highlight of our weekends and always looks forward to watching you guys.
Oh, thank you.
And we have 20 seconds.
I look forward to doing it, even though sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I want to have the energy to do it or not.
Ah, you're fine.
And yeah, no. See what we have 20 seconds, but look, the
That's
bone
10.
pattern is
Coming out.
all right.
All right, guys.
Thanks for
Come
watching.
visit us. Maybe we'll let you know if next week or not. Talk to you later. Bye.